Oh goodness. First of all, I was born in Somaliland. I was born in the nomadic region, in a little town called Odweyne. And believe it, I was born under a tree with the stars and the moon as my blanket, and the very first moving vehicle that I ever been on was a camel. But my upbringing from the age of 5 was in the UK, so that's where I got most of my knowledge and my education.
How did you end up in UK?
My father was a very adventurous person, and he decided that he wanted more adventure, so he went to Egypt, and he was there for 6 months before the Second World War broke out, and then he was recruited by the British Navy and fought with them, and managed to accumulate 7 medals from it. And when the Second World War finished, they took him back to the UK and docked in Liverpool. And that's where he decided he wanted to go into the Merchant Navy and bring his family. And that's how we got there. Actually, it's as normal as it can be. And it was an all-white neighborhood, which meant I was in an all-white school. We're talking about 1964. So, sort of middle-class Black African people were very, very small. And so it was very difficult upbringing, really, because I had to go to an all-white school where I remember, the children used to look at me and say, things like, "Are you African?" "Yes, I'm African." No, you're not African. You're not dark like African, and you don't have the African hair, and you don't have the African nose, so you're not African. And at one time, they even got me to believe that maybe I was a bastard. That I was illegitimate. So, they say you and your father don't look alike. Your father is dark and African, and you are light. So that means something fishy must have gone on. And I was always in fights, always fighting. So it gave me a very tough exterior. Well, actually, my upbringing was a very strict upbringing. My mother was very, very strict. I think my father was the more lenient person, always wanted me to achieve and always drummed into me that I could achieve. But my mother was a much more dominant figure because my father was a sea merchant, so he was always away. So the person that we all relied upon was my mother. And my mother got me married off when I was 15. So I was brought back to my country and married and had 3 children, and went back to the UK in 1988 when the Civil War broke out.
Okay. How many years you were in Somaliland in between?
From 79 to 88.
Okay. 9 years, yeah.
9 years. And in that time I had 2 children. No, 2. The third one came up later. When I went back, I only had my secondary school education, no college, no university. So it's very difficult finding a really good job. My husband was still back in Somaliland at the time, and he had a restriction and couldn't leave. I was smuggled out at the time. And so I remember the one time that my father was sitting next to me and he said, "Daughter, are you happy? Have you achieved everything that you wanted to achieve?" And I thought, well, I've achieved everything that I'm supposed to achieve. Get married, have children. Isn't that what I'm supposed to achieve. That's what I've achieved. And it was, no, but do you feel complete? And it was, no, I don't feel complete. I know that there's something missing, but I just didn't know what was missing. And all my friends and relatives would always sort of say, oh, you're an ungrateful person, you know, you have everything, you have the house, you have the car, you have a husband, children. What on earth is it that you're still looking for? And I don't know, there was just this unsettling something that was in me that was saying, you're not there. And in the end, I turned around and I said, I want to go to university. My father said, go. Good for you. Go for it. And it was, it was my mother's who was pounding on me and sort of saying, at your age, you have, 3 children, you have a family to take off. What on earth can a university degree now complement you with? You know, there's nothing else that you should need. And it was, no, I need something. There's just something there that's missing. And coming back, going through the Civil War and everything back home, and then coming back here, it was, I wanted to contribute, but I just didn't know how to contribute. I wanted to do something, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't have the education or anything else to do it. So in the end, I got up enough courage, to go to the university and look through their brochures and decided, yes, I want to be a teacher. I want to teach. I want to, do something meaningful. And after about a year of debating and getting knocked down by everybody, saying, crazy woman, look at her, she's at that age and she wants to go to university, and look at your children, they're 11, 10, and I don't know what it was, but there was just something there that made me get up, go to the university and sign up. And I signed up and did the exams and I got in, and it was brilliant. But I think it was the very first day when I sat in the lecture room and I was listening to the lecturer, and it being in an educational environment, that something inside me grew. I have no other words to describe it. I always describe it as I became a butterfly. I came from a little sort of a little caterpillar, and suddenly something inside me just exploded, and I found my wings. I found myself. It was so liberating. It was so wonderful. But then I realized this is the atmosphere that I was meant to be in. This was what was missing from my life, and I've never looked back since. Never looked back.
So you became a teacher?
I became a teacher, but the thing was, the more you get, the more you want, Then I wasn't happy with that. I wanted more, I became greedy and I wanted more. And I can remember, my husband, my mother was just to say, what's wrong with you, woman? You were very happy and docile and you were a good wife and a mother. What's wrong with you? What got into you? And I just wanted more. I wanted to do more. So I did. So I started working in Race Equality Council. And then I started being an advocate for women like me that believed that they couldn't really achieve anything, amount to anything, do anything, because this was their lot in life. This was their fate. And turning around and saying, no, life is not over until you're dead. And buried. But while you're still on this earth, you have something to contribute that you can achieve. There's life in you yet. And so I started the Welsh Refugee Council, working with refugees, the Bosnian refugees, the Somali refugees. And eventually, even that wasn't enough. It just, the more I did, the more I wanted to do more. So in the end, I turned around and said to my family, I'm going back home. And this was 98, and everybody looked at me and said, are you crazy? It's just coming out of a civil war. There's not a proper government. There's no proper police. You're walking into a war zone. What's wrong with you? Are you crazy? And it was, no, but that's what I want to do. And by this time, I had got to a stage that I was so confident in myself and in who I was that I wouldn't be dictated to. So what I wanted was what I wanted. And if you didn't like it, you didn't like it. And so I went back home and started working with the UN and revolutionizing things. I remember I went and I saw my first glimpse of what happened to women when they went to prison, and there was no women prison wardens, and there was no women to look after them. And when I asked the questioners, where's the policewoman? They said, oh, here's the policewoman. I said, where? And they said, here. And I said, the cleaner. And they said, yes, that's what women do. So she cleans and she makes the coffee, and she searches the women when we ask them to. I thought, no, you're supposed to have them in uniforms, and to have them in uniform, they have to be educated. They have to go to the police academy, and it was sort of, excuse me, hold, sort of timeout, stop there. But 2 years, 3 years along the line, we got the policewomen in. Now policewomen are everywhere. I started fighting for women lawyers because there was no women lawyers. So if a woman was raped, or she was a battered wife or whatever, it would always be a man that's interviewing her who says that he's going to talk for her, and it never worked. So we started campaigning for women lawyers, and I got in scholarships because the parents weren't ready to send their daughters to university to learn law. They can learn nursing instead. But now we have over 100 women lawyers. So yes.
So how your family reacted to this, this caterpillar becoming a butterfly? Starting from the marriage, was it organized marriage?
It was organized,
so you didn't know your husband when you were back there?
No.
But for us as a Westerners, it's sort of difficult to imagine.
It is.
Maybe you can reveal some of the how it was and how how did that change?
It was an arranged marriage, but parents do that for the best interest of the child. They believe that they're doing the best.
Yes, that's
it's
our
not,
parents always say.
Absolutely, yes. It's for your own good.
Yeah.
For me, it turned out to be a good marriage, and my husband was a very good man. So Alhamdulillah, there was no problems. He died 2 years ago, but he was it was a very good match. He was a university graduate, so I didn't have to marry an old man.
Had he studied also in
America?
In America, okay.
Yes. So we were more or less on the same footing. So it was much easier to get on, and for him to understand me and where I was coming from. For my family, it was a bit difficult in some of the areas that I was talking about. When I was talking about domestic violence and FGM and things like that, it was and rape and these are very taboo subjects, and it's not subjects that women should talk about, and especially not on TV and other places. So for them it was really difficult at the beginning, but I believe that they're proud of me now. And where I am.
Yeah. How about the religion? How has it affected your life? We have a picture of
the thing is, Islam.
Think about now the whole your life.
For me, in Islam, it is my religion. It's part of me. But Islam is not it doesn't restrict me. It doesn't stop me from doing what I am doing, because it is part of the Islamic teaching that and the Prophet ﷺ has told us that part of sadaqah, or parts of alms giving, is the smile. It's your duty to assist people, to talk for people who cannot talk for themselves, to give alms to the poor. So what I am doing is more or less what I am supposed to be doing as a good Muslim. But the problem is not the religion. The problem is the culture. This man-made culture that taboos everything, and then it's like, you're not supposed to be an Islamic scholar, religious scholar, because you're a woman, for the simple reason that once you know the Quran and you can read it and you understand it, you realize that women have so much power and have been given so much power. But it's the culture that puts the pin in the little grenade, and it's the culture that oppresses, and it's the culture that's the bad part. It's not the religion, and that is something that it's taken me a long time to understand and to come to grips with. So now I can argue with any scholar for what I'm doing and why I'm doing it.
But do you see that is there any chance, in a way, of course, now getting to this Islam more like that, is there any sort of movement inside Islam that, because we know all the imams are men and all that, is there sort of do you feel that there could be some sort of, like what we have seen like in the Catholic Church in Latin America, like this emancipated, like, revolutionary,
not
guerrilla priests, etc. So
not in this day and age, no, not in my lifetime, no. We have women scholars. A sheikh or a mufti is just a scholar, but they have different names. But really, what they're scholars. They are the ones that know the Quran, they know the translation of the Quran, they know the hadiths, and they become scholars in just that area. So they're the ones that you go to if there's a debate or if there's a grey area. So they're the ones that brings the fatwas and opens things out and explains things. But women can also be scholars. All it is that the Quran, as long as you learn to read the Quran and you learn to decipher it, Islam is a very beautiful and very peace-loving religion, and people don't realize it, and it doesn't oppress. That's the funny thing about it, is Islam doesn't oppress. And Islam actually liberates. In the Quran, women are the only person in the Quran that has a whole chapter named after Surah An-Nisa, which is women. And it is for me, I believe that it's a very beautiful and peace-loving religion if you use it in that sense. But people distort it and make it into something that it is not, and that's where you get the fractions and the fundamentalists and things like that. But no, Islam is a peace-loving religion.
So it's easy for you to go to the mosque, though, but
yes,
they are teaching differently there in the...
Deep in myself and in my heart, I know what I am supposed to do, and as a Muslim person, what I am about, and as far as I am concerned, that's it. There's 5 fundamental in things that you have to do in Islam, and that is you go for the pilgrimage, you fast in Ramadan, you pay zakah, you pay sadaqah, and you pray 5 times a day. That's your 5 pillars. And as long as you do that, then there's no other reason that you should go into anything else.
And you could easily see your children marrying Christians or changing religion, or because of course, religion is a choice.
You can't. Your child is your child. You don't dictate to your child. What I would like my child to do and how I would like my child to grow up is completely different to what they will turn out to be like. I would like my child to grow up to be a doctor or an astronaut or, a specialist or a surgeon. But whether they're going to become that is another thing. But every parent would like the best for their child. I would like my child to marry a Somali. Whether they marry a Finn or a Swede that again is not something that I can control. And so for me, my child is my child. And I will bring him up or her up in the religion that I was brought up. What they become once they are grown is not for me.
How about I can imagine that your status in Somaliland, you come from a very small elite that has had the possibility to study abroad and all that. How do you sort of feel? Relate. How do you have? The majority of people, they have not seen maybe through TV the reality, something like that. And how do you have this privileged position in a way?
At the beginning it was difficult. At the beginning it was very, very difficult. Extremely difficult at the beginning, but I've now come to conform. There are a lot of things a lot of expectations that I had to bring down, and then maybe divert it in other ways to get to where I want to go. You have to be extremely patient, and understanding. Very humble. If you put on airs, then people won't like it. So you have to be humble, patient, not expect too much, not too fast anyway, and go very slowly, stage by stage. And if you go in like a train or a bull in a china shop, then you'll crash. So I've just learned to pace myself. And when I want to go, I will do it at a very slow pace and do it in a way that people will understand and go with me rather than try and fly. So it's one step at a time.